He owns and operates the Pack a Day podcast that airs 365 days a year with over 12 million views on YouTube. A new adventure begins. It's time for the Pack a Day radio show with Andy Herman on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and on the free Odyssey app.
Christian, along with a few others, absolutely did everything and deserved to make this football team. We had more than 53, in my opinion, that deserved to make this football team. And that deserved to make a 53 roster. That's a great problem. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to look people in the eye that have produced and played well enough to make your team and have to move on. That's really, really hard. I'm glad some of our guys got opportunities, and Christian as well, because I think they deserve it and they've earned it. But that's very, very difficult.
Good morning, Packers Nation. Happy Tuesday. Welcome into the Pack a Day radio show. My name is Andy Herman. We are live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. That was Brian Gutekunst 1 year ago at Cutdown Time, talking about Christian Welch, how difficult it was to release him last season. And now he's in almost an identical situation with Christian Welch and others this season, where there are probably more than 53 players who are deserving of making this Packers roster, but Brian Gutekunst is going to have some insanely difficult decisions today, not to mention potential waiver pickups, trades, etc. We've already seen one trade for an offensive lineman, and my guess is Goody is going to be very active on the phones today. We will see what transpires throughout the course of today. Of course, we'll be covering it for you all day long. You've got us here on the Pack a Day radio show, the Mason Crosby show coming up next, Wisconsin Sports Daily later today, and we will be covering roster cuts for you all day long. We'd also love for you to join the show. You can join us today on the Nicolay Law Fan Talk and Text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250. What do you think Green Bay should do? Who should they cut? Who should they keep? Who would you be most disappointed if you saw released today? Who would you be most disappointed if you saw kept on the active roster today? I think there's a ton of interesting questions. And by the way, Peter Bukowski coming up at 8:20 a.m. today. Locked On Packers. Excited to chat with him. We'll get his final takes on the roster as well. And if we start seeing some of these releases start rolling in, we've had a lot this morning from other teams. I have not seen any from the Packers yet today. But if something does, we will keep you posted as soon as it happens as well. Tommy, welcome in to the show today. How the heck are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Andy. How are you?
Fantastic. What is your expectation for today? Is there a player that you are? I know you got Julian Hicks on the mind today. Yeah. You really want to see him kept as wide receiver 6. Justice Mosqueda, by the way, has done a wonderful job over at Acme Packing Company to track. He's got like 15 or 16 different like beat writer accounts and Packers aficionados who have put together 53-man roster projections and is keeping track of like how many times each player was kept on each of them. I regret to inform you that Julian Hicks was not kept on a single 53, but the upside here, Tommy, is that if he is kept on the 53, you, my friend, looking very, very wise.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened and won't continue to happen today. So I am preparing myself that Julian Hicks will not be part of the 53-man roster. But I think some of the more interesting players, like Mecole Hardman, has to be the most interesting, I think, right? And whether or not they're going to keep 6-7 receivers during that time. I think it's Mecole Hardman as the most interesting player and most notable player, I think, for Packers fans on if he's going to be on the 53-man roster or not. And then just more or less, actually, I think Nasir Stackhouse as well, another interesting one, kind of polarizing at the same time. Had a very good camp, undrafted guy too. You're always rooting for the underdog. So I think those are the two names that have any weight to it that would say, are they or are they not going to be on the Packers 53-man this year?
Yeah, I think if you kind of go through it, right, I'm interested to see what that number 3 quarterback looks like on the practice squad. At running back, is Marshawn Lloyd placed on IR designated to return? It seems to be that's kind of the question. Wide receiver, Malik Heath, Mecole Hardman, or other, and do they keep 6 or do they keep 7 or do they keep 5? I think that's within the realm of possibility as well. Ben Sims, tight end 4, do they keep a 4th tight end? And if so, is that Ben Sims? I think some of the final offensive line spots, Jacob Monk's injury sort of clouds that. Donovan Jennings, Kadeem Telfort. Is there another new offensive lineman that gets brought to Green Bay? I think that one is rather interesting. Stackhouse, you mentioned at defensive tackle. Defensive end. Aaron Mosby, I think, is one of the more intriguing ones to kind of think about there, is if he gets on the roster. What, does Colin Oliver stay on the PUP list? I think he will at this point. Barron Sorrell, does he go on the IR designated to return? Christian Welch, Isaiah Simmons, maybe fighting for one linebacker spot, but do they potentially keep two? That last corner spot, maybe last two corner spots, Kalen King, Kamal Haddon, Micah Robinson, Corey Ballantyne. I think those are interesting. And then we just heard yesterday from Rob Domofsky as well that Omar Brown, the safety that was in the hospital, is actually going to be out of the hospital and like ready to play. So apparently he just needed like the observation. There was actually not like a long-term injury here. It's just once he's cleared from the hospital, he's actually good to play football again, which is usually not the case with any other sort of injury. So that's great news for him. Can he kind of get in that conversation? I think the answer is probably not, but that's another kind of interesting one. I think the fun part of this, Tommy, is to kind of look at, so there's 15 people that Justice tracked. Matt Schneidman of The Athletic, Jason Hirschhorn, friend of the show here of The Leap, Wendell Ferreira, A to Z Sports, who's here obviously always, Zach Cruz, Packers Wire, Rob Domofsky of ESPN, Justice Mosqueda of Acme Packing Company, Ryan Wood of Green Bay Press Gazette, Paul Brettel, ESPN Lacrosse, Zach Jacobson of Packer Report, Bill Huber of Sports Illustrated, myself, Alex Becerra of Basareski Productions, Jacob Westendorf of Sports Illustrated, Ken Ingalls, salary cap nerd, proclaimed, which he's totally right. And then Jersey Al of Cheesehead TV were the ones that he tracked for this. At quarterback, Jordan Love and Malik Willis made all 15. That no surprise there. No other quarterback made a 53. Yeah. At running back, Jacobs, Brooks, and Wilson made all 15. Marshawn Lloyd was on 0 with IR designated to return on all 15 of the predictions. So 15 for 15 there. At wide receiver, as you would imagine, Dobbs, Reed, Golden, Wicks, and Savion Williams all went 15 for 15. Malik Heath went 15 for 15. He made it on every single 53-man roster projection that was out there. I was surprised by that. I was very close to I don't know if he's going to, I think he's kind of making it by default at this point because Hardman didn't really do what you were expecting him to. And you have all the injuries at wide receiver that probably make it that you need to keep 6. I think if everyone was healthy, if Dobbs, Reed, Golden, Wicks, and Savion were healthy and Watson's ready to come back in 5 weeks or whatever, you probably just keep 5 and then figure, you have your 6th guy coming back at week 5. But with all the injuries at that position, I think he just kind of gets kept by default. McCole Hardman was only on 2 of the 15 as a 7th wide receiver / punt returner. So that's a pretty interesting one there. Not a lot of faith in McCole Hardman making this team. At tight end, Kraft, Musgrave, and Fitzpatrick all went 15 for 15. Ben Sims on 7 of the 15 as a 4th tight end. Offensive line, Walker, Banks, Jenkins, Ryan, Tom, Morgan, Belton on 15 of the 15. Jacob Monk on 11 with 4 of them placing him on IR designated to return. Darian Kennard was on 10, but it was only because 5 of them put it together before he was actually on the roster. So he would have been 15 for 15 as well. You're not trading a 6th-round pick for him and cutting him, obviously. And then Donovan Jennings was on 5. Kadeem Telfort was on 4. And Lacita Smith was on 1. John Williams was on the PUP for everyone, obviously. So that's the offensive side of the ball. Anything to you that stands out there, either somebody that was not on that list or was low on the list or just was a lock that you're surprised by?
I think just actually the ruling on Marshawn Lloyd, right? It feels like we've kind of been in the dark on that as Packer fans, waiting to hear if that was going to be the case. Why wouldn't that be announced a little bit sooner too, just to give everyone, hey, we're going to get an extra Packer on this team because Marshawn Lloyd will be on the PUP list, right? It's 4
IR
weeks.
Designated to return.
Okay. Is that still a 4-week thing, Andy?
So yeah, here, just to give everyone a quick heads up on IR/DR. So they've remade this rule. So in the past, if you wanted to put somebody on IR and bring them back during the season, you had to have them on the active roster. They had to make the 53, and then you place them on IR, and you could pick somebody up the next day on waivers or try to bring one of your guys that you cut back to the active roster. Now you can put up to 2 players on IR designated to return on cutdown day. You cannot do it before cutdown day, but you can do it on cutdown day, designate them to return at some point during the season. And then you get that extra roster spot or 2 roster spots if you use both of them. And then they are out at least 4 weeks. They could be out longer than that. It could be 8, 10, 12, whatever you need, but they would have to be out at least 4 weeks. And then you can bring them back. In the season in totality, you get 8 players that you can designate to return. If you designate 2 of them at cutdown time, that is 2 of them for sure. You cannot undesignate them. those are two of them. You would only have 6 left through the remainder of the season.
Yeah, and I think 4 tight ends also just seems like a lot for Green Bay too. Ben Sims, I know he's had some wave this preseason, but I don't know. I just half of the, it was 7 of the 15 lists, right? You said Ben Sims made it, so it's a coin flip at this point. It feels like if they're going to keep 4 tight ends.
Yeah, Sims was 7 of the 15, and I think he's one of the interesting ones. Justice made a pretty good argument for him based on special teams and how they utilize him on teams, and just some of the return, like the kick return stuff, where he's been utilized on that, where it's been kind of important. If they do keep 4 tight ends, I would not be surprised if they pick somebody up off of waivers tomorrow. And maybe it's not Ben Sims, and maybe they get Ben Sims back on the practice squad and pick somebody else up there. But I think that's an interesting one. I know Mike Clemens today, he responded to one of my tweets that I put out for my prediction. And he said, looks good. I probably would have had Ben Sims over like a Christian Welcher and Isaiah Simmons. So there is definitely some feel out there that Sims is worthy based on special teams. I'm more with you. I don't think I'm quite there. I've been like a Ben Sims believer, if that's a thing. So I'm very interested to see if he does make it, if they go with a different tight end, or if they just go with 3. I asked Justice this too, because what it really came down for me, and well, I'm just kind of a spoiler here. I kept all 6 linebackers, meaning I kept Isaiah Simmons and Christian Welch. And if I had a choice, if I was like Rich Bisaccia, right? And I'm putting my special teams hat on for a moment. And I said, Rich, you can keep 2 of the 3. You get, Isaiah Simmons, Christian Welch, and Ben Sims. Which 2 do you want? I just think the 2 linebackers are more valuable on special teams to me than what Ben Sims is. I would rather have the coverage units better. I think Sims and Welch are going to play more special teams units, and that gives me more flexibility than adding probably a tight end that maybe plays on the kick return team, and that might be it, honestly. So yeah, for me, I'm going to take the extra linebacker rather than go with the 4th tight end.
I agree. I think so. And you're just talking about getting athletes on special teams a lot of the time too, and no shade at Ben Sims. I just think that Isaiah Simmons and Christian Welch both displayed their better athletically at the NFL level than Ben Sims are, if special teams is really a make or break on why they make it.
Yeah, it could be. By the way, Ben Sims, 83rd percentile tight end RAS, my friend.
Tight end, keyword tight end.
That's true. That is very, very fair. I actually had a 4.58 40, 95th percentile for a tight end. It does not show up on the field at all. But yeah, that's your Ben Sims RAS update for the day. If you are new to the Pack-A-Day radio show, by the way, and you're expecting yelling and hot takes, you're not going to get it. You're going to get Ben Sims talk right off the bat to start your morning. So grab your cup of coffee, get your breakfast pizza, and let's talk some Ben Sims and some Taylor Elgersma. Buckle in, my friends. This is what you're going to get used to 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. By the way, you are listening to us right here, 1250 AM, 105.7 FM, The Fan, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. You can also find us over on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, get those questions in as well. We can get through those, or your comments on who you think should make the 53. We'll get to those through the course of today as well. All right, defensive end. Again, this is per Justice Mosqueda's tracker over on acmepackingcompany.com. Rashawn Gary, LVN, Kingsley Nigbari, Brenton Cox all made 15 of the 15 projections. Barron Sorrell was on 12 with 3 people putting him on IR designated to return. Aaron Mosby made 6 of the 15, and Colin Oliver made none, but was on the PUP list for all 15. Obviously, one of the big questions here is just Barron Sorrell's health. And that's one of the things that really clouds this is the Marshawn Lloyd situation, Barron Sorrell, Zane Anderson, Jacob Monk, amongst others. We just don't have a great feel for some of the injuries. And sorry, I kind of ignored your point earlier about Marshawn Lloyd, Tommy. We don't know what that injury situation is going to be like. They could say he's ready to go week 1 and could easily make this roster. We just don't know. I think the thinking overall, and I at least can speak to my thinking on it, is if he's going to be out even a couple weeks, just IR designated to return that guy and let him get fully healthy. Like, do not even remotely rush that guy back. You have 3 good running backs on the roster already. You probably don't need 4 anyway. So put him out for the first 4 weeks, let him get fully healthy, and then see where you're at going. And then you have week 5 as a bye. Hopefully you get him back week 6, and then he's just ready to go for the remainder of the season. So I think that's a little bit more the thinking there. It's just like, hey, let's just get that guy fully healthy. He's had too many injuries. Let's not mess with this. And hopefully he's good to go by week 6.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything he can do on an NFL field in any real sort of sample size. Nope. So why rush it now to get to it. I would rather see Marshawn Lloyd at 100% health. We've seen a couple flashes in the preseason, right? That wheel route was sick, Andy. But other
Very
than
much
that,
so.
like, let's just wait on it, because you have a position right now also in running back that if Marshawn Lloyd wasn't extremely talented, really wouldn't even be a factor because of how strong I think the running back room is for Green Bay.
We have our first release of the day that is reported by one Ryan Wood. Offensive lineman Trey Hill has been released by the Green Bay Packers. So one down, a lot to go. But that is the first, not rumored, but reported release by Green Bay is, again, Trey Hill, offensive lineman, reported by Ryan Wood. So stay on top of it. Like, you can obviously stay on top of it. Again, with us, we're going to be covering it all day in the fan, but Ryan Wood, Bill Huber, Tom Silverstein, those guys are going to be all over everything. Obviously Matt Schneidman as well. Those guys will be all over everything all day today, but Ryan Wood goes 1 for 1 in the first release today. And again, Trey Hill, offensive lineman, is no longer on the roster. All right, defensive tackle. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, Warren Brinson go 15 for 15. Colby Wooden goes 13 of 15. So 2 people released Colby Wooden on their projections. Nasir Stackhouse goes 10 for 15. So a few people kept 6 offensive line. Well, more than a few. About 8 people kept 6 defensive tackles, I should say. But 2 people released Colby Wooden, 5 released Nasir Stackhouse. Tommy, I was one of the 5 that did have Nasir Stackhouse not on the roster. When it came down, first of all, I think he's the 6th defensive tackle. I think Wooden, Brinson, Brooks, Wyatt, Clark, all easily ahead of him at this point. And I just kind of looked at it. I think teams are probably watching his preseason tape, and his preseason tape was not good. Like, he got moved off the ball a ton. He was an undrafted free agent. So, or as a undrafted free agent, like out of Georgia, obviously, if you're not going to draft him, if nobody's going to draft him, and then you throw on the tape to see, all right, let's see how he's doing, and you throw the preseason tape on, and it doesn't look like incredible, you're not claiming him for a 53-man roster spot. So I think they easily get him back in the practice squad. I would not be stunned if he made the roster. I think it would have to be as a number 6. I don't think you're releasing Wooden or any of the other guys on the team. But yeah, to me, Stackhouse would be a little bit more of a luxury. He would not do anything for you on special teams. He probably is inactive for most game days. And again, he's probably just somebody that you can get on the practice squad and call up a couple times if you need him. So I'm in the Stackhouse does not make the team. But again, 10 out of 15 people predicting did have him on the roster. Where do you stand on Stackhouse?
I think that he is going to be the feel-good story, Andy. Like, just strictly from what happens typically year to year with Green Bay and with other NFL franchises, I think Nasir Stackhouse, he went to Georgia, right? Like, I mean, yes, they already have that Georgia connection all over as well. And you know that Goody loves to draft Georgia and Green Bay loves to keep Georgia. Maybe I read too much into it on that end of it, but I would like to think that if I'm at a percent that he stays, I think I'm at like 60% Nasir Stackhouse is a Packer.
Yeah, and that seems to be kind of where we're at too, with just kind of the numbers of people who kept him. I didn't really put together. He seems to be the only player, and maybe there's somebody else that I'm not thinking of. No, I think he's the only one to keep the streak alive for undrafted free agents making this team for Green Bay. It's been something like 16 years in a row or something where a single undrafted free agent has made the opening 53-man roster.
Was Orzik drafted?
Sorry, they'll have undrafted free agents, but not in this rookie class.
Oh, got it. Sorry, yes.
They'll have multiple, but like somebody from their actual undrafted free agent classes or a rookie undrafted free agent. Last year, they did not have an initial one, but Braden Narvison got claimed to be the kicker to start the season, and he was their undrafted guy last year. So yeah, unless Stackhouse makes it, this could be the first year that they do not have a undrafted rookie make the team. So Stackhouse is probably the only opportunity there. Maybe Jamin Johnson could get in the conversation, but I think that'd be pretty aggressive probably for him, and nobody projected that. 15 out of 15 for Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie, and Tyron Hopper. Isaiah Simmons was on 10 of the 15, and Christian Welch was on 8 of the 15. So that seems to be, again, where a lot of the the flux is going to be is, do they keep Simmons? Do they keep Welch? Do they keep both? Do they keep neither? Like, that's, I think, going to be a very interesting one as well. I just think the special teams is going to be too important for both of those. I think with some of the other injuries where you're probably going to designate two guys to return, I think it just opens up some opportunity to keep both of those guys. So I think both are on, but Simmons and Welch, the interesting ones there, Tommy.
Yeah, and our guy Wendell Fajeda is reporting as well now. Andy, Devontae O'Malley also being cut now as well from the Packers roster, cut today.
All right, we got two down, O'Malley, and now, of course, earlier Trey Hill as well. So, all right, thank you for keeping me on top of that. Let's finish up our cornerback and safety rooms really quick. Nixon, Hobbs, Valentine, Melton were on 15 out of 15. Kalen King was on 13 out of 15. Valentine was on 7, and Kamal Haddon was on 4. I'm a Kamal Haddon believer, Tommy. I was one of the 4 there. I did have Kalen King on as well. I think the corner room is going to be very interesting there, what they do today. And then at safety, McKinney, Williams, and Bullard and Oladapo were on all 15. Zane Anderson was on 12 with 3 people putting him on IR designated to return. Omar Brown was not on any, but 2 people did have Omar Brown on injured reserve designated to return. So we'll see what happens there. And then obviously McManus, Whelan, and Orzik all 15 out of 15 as well. That's the infamous 53-man roster projection tracker by Justice Mosqueda. You can find that over on acmepackingcompany.com. We're going to be covering, again, roster cuts for you in the final 53-man roster all day right here on The Fan. We are, again, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. I should mention, Football Talk on The Fan is presented by Paramount Plus. You cannot count on much these days, but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. Watch your local NFL game live every Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus all season long. Visit ParamountPlus.com/NFL to get started today. Also, a programming announcement will be made this afternoon, 4 p.m. on The Fan. It will be golden. Make sure you're listening at 4 p.m. this afternoon as Sparky makes the announcement on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan, and on the free Odyssey app. We are 56 and fair in Milwaukee right now, high of 71, low of 53 today. We are going to be right back with Peter Bukowski. This is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Welcome back to the Pack a Day Radio Show. We are live from the 1250 AM and 1057 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show is coming up next from 9 to 11 today. But right now, without any further ado, the one and only Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers, The Leap. You can find him on social media at Peter_Bukowski. Peter, how is your cutdown day treating you, my friend?
Well, I'm sort of bracing for what is to come, because this is one of those days where things are flying fast and furious, and there's always going to be a couple surprises. I'm excited for that part of it, because that's whether it's a player you go, whoa, I can't believe that person got cut, or whoa, I can't believe that person made the final 53. There's always a handful of those, and if we could predict them, they wouldn't be surprising, Andy.
No, that's very, very true. I asked Justice Mosqueda this last night for today's show, and I will ask you as well. If there is a Josh Sitton level surprise that it doesn't have to be a cut, I'll let you go in any direction. A Josh Sitton level surprise. If I told you for sure there's going to be a Josh Sitton level surprise, what would you say that would potentially be this year? It's really difficult to come up with, so I'm really putting you on the spot here, because it feels like a fairly straightforward kind of roster cut down day. But what would maybe be surprising to you?
It does. Let me go like way off. The thing is he's hurt. So this is the problem. I would not be surprised if at some point we hear conversations about the Packers looking to trade Jaden Reed.
Okay. Do you want to know who brought something up similar last night? Justice Mosqueda.
Well, see, so maybe it wouldn't be that surprising then, because like this receiver room is crowded, right? And Justice was the one that had the piece in his APC column the other day about, or this was just yesterday, right? About teams inquiring inbound. I had heard some similar things about inbound in Green Bay. I think it was Diana Rossini reported that Aaron Rodgers was specifically like the worst kept secret all spring. Once Rodgers was a Steeler, was like, he's going to want Romeo Doubs, right? Like everyone and their mother were saying that was the thing that was going to happen. And then sure enough, that's what happened. So I think the draft told us a lot about where Green Bay values these players, right? Like I think they like their guys, but it also would not be surprising to me if they thought, hey, there's an opportunity to get some value here. And remember, Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks are each going to want to get paid next spring. And so if there's a decision that needs to be made there and Matthew Golden becomes the guy that we think he can be, maybe they try and get some value, get ahead of these sorts of decisions. And, maybe Savion Williams is your future power slot in the Green Bay Packers organization.
I think we would be having a lot more discussions about wide receiver and potentially trades and things like that if all the injuries did not exist.
Yeah, half the room is
everything right now.
They can barely field
exactly.
11 personnel.
Yeah, it's brutal right now. So I think there would be a lot more discussion on something like that. I think maybe more time towards like the trade deadline if everyone gets healthy. We did just have Rob Domofsky report, by the way, JJ Lippy and Johnny Lumpkin both being released. So I think we are up to 4 on our tracker as of right now. But yeah, that's the latest news. But yeah, I don't expect anything wild and crazy, but I do think wide receiver would be a lot more interesting had the injuries not been there. I want to talk to you, Peter, about new offensive linemen that the Packers acquire. Kennard is a very interesting player coming over from Philadelphia. What did you think of that move?
He was someone who I had to go back to my notes because once he got to the NFL, he just hasn't played. And so he's not someone that I had to keep up with. I reposted the one thing I could remember about him and got in big trouble for doing that because of a sweatshirt he wore at the Senior Bowl. And that was the only thing I could remember about him. But I went back in my notes, and what we talked about it today on Locked On Packers. He's huge. That's the thing that is, I think, important to know about Darian Kennard. And I mentioned this today. If you go back, Andy, since 2022, Brian Gutekunst and Ted Thompson combined, they had never drafted a player in the top 100, an offensive lineman that was 320 plus. It had never happened. And in Brian Gutekunst's career, he had never brought in an offensive lineman 320 plus at any point until 2022. At any point, not in the draft, not in undrafted free agency. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, how about Caleb Jones? He's 6'9", 370. How about that? How about Kadeem Telford? He's 6'7", 340. Anthony Belton and Anthony Banks in the same offseason, and now Darian Kennard. I think they're telling us that they want to follow the Sean McVays and say, we're going to get into more of this duo run scheme. We're going to be a power running team. If teams are going to play too high against the Green Bay Packers, they are going to feel this Packers offense. They are going to come downhill and punch you in the mouth And that's why I think they're going to live with the growing pains with Anthony Belton, because you watch him, and I said this during the Seahawks game, you hear the pads. When Anthony Belton climbs to the second level, you will feel him if you're a linebacker. And so that is, you know, if you're a football sicko like we are, that's the fun stuff, man. Like that's the really cool, you know, that's the football you and I grew up on. That was the 90s football. That was the Edgar Bennett Green Bay Packers. The let's get William Henderson in the I formation and come downhill and run ISO power stuff. Like, would it be crazy to think that they could do that again? I don't think it is.
No, I don't think so either. And to your point, Jacob Monk and Jordan Morgan, now sort of the outliers. Jacob Monk, 6'3", 308. Jordan Morgan, 6'5", 311. In the meantime, Aaron Banks, 6'5", 325. John Williams, 6'4", 322. Jennings, 6'4", 323. Belton's 336. Glover, there's no way Glover's 317. That dude's at least 320 something, if not 330 something. And then Darian Kennard, 322 as well. They're going for big uglies up front now. I love every second of it. And I think even Morgan's put on weight since his 311 draft weight as well. So yeah, they're going to be much bigger than they've been.
I think he cut to 311 to run to like test well. I think he probably played closer to 320. You watch him at Arizona. He doesn't look any different than why am I blanking on the Jonah Sevenaya? Was that his bookend tackle?
Sevenaya for Miami. Yep.
They look the same size, and I think Jonah Sevenaya was like 325. So like I don't think Jordan Morgan played at Arizona at 311.
I don't think so either. I think he's definitely in that 320 range as well. So yes, maybe only Jacob Monk actually is the outlier now, and none of the rest. So yeah, they've definitely gone big offensive line hunting. There's no question about it. What as you kind of look at today, as we're being joined by Peter Bukowski, you can find him on The Leap, of course, Locked On Packers. I do like the juxtaposition of you in the dark colors, me in the light colors, the light of Pack-A-Day Podcast, the dark of Locked On Packers as we're on YouTube over here. It's a perfect juxtaposition, but definitely make sure to follow him over at Peter_Bukowski. What are you kind of watching for as like bottom of the roster today that where these real decisions probably lie for Green Bay?
Yeah, it's the like for like bodies, right? Like special teams. This is something that, you know, I feel bad because this is Justice's corner, but it's okay. How many tight ends do you want to keep versus how many linebackers do you want to keep? How many safeties are you going to keep versus how many receivers do you want to keep? Because it's a special teams question. It's always a special teams question. And what are you getting on special teams? And I think it was Justice that pointed out, hey, they're actually using tight ends on special teams in ways that they hadn't in the past. The fact that Isaiah Simmons is the #1 punt gunner for this team, like I think that is going to play, and that's why on Saturday it was so vital for him to have some good reps out there. I think he played almost the whole game, Andy. Isaiah Simmons. I think they were giving him every opportunity to show, hey, look, if I need to play linebacker, I can play linebacker, which is again an interesting juxtaposition to the way he started, which was, wait, actually, he might start in 3 linebacker sets. I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they're actually going to go more to this new odd front stuff where they're going to play 3 true defensive linemen and 2 ends. Kind of a Joe Barry throwback where they're going to play like 3-4 nickel a lot of the time with 2 linebackers on the field. And so that brings me to the next one where I'm fascinated to see how many defensive tackles are they going to keep. They regularly had 5 active on game day last year. So does that mean you need 6? Does that mean Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson can each make this team? I think that's the most likely scenario right now. I mean, I think Nazir Stackhouse has put too much good tape out there to not get picked up if you move on from him. And I don't know about you, Andy. I don't know how you felt about Brinson in the pre-draft. But watching him in Green Bay, he looks like a different guy as a pass rusher. I mean, just Georgia does not ask those guys to pin their ears back and go get them the way that you have to in the NFL. And I just thought there are some reps where Brinson is ragdolling offensive tackles, just a little push, pull, and go. And on that Evan Williams interception to end joint practices, watch 91. He destroys the starting left tackle for the Seattle Seahawks. And it's interesting to note that was ones versus ones. Brinson was out there in the 2-minute in a drill that ended practice. And so I think that bodes well for him making this team. I'm really excited about this interior. I try and protect myself because, right, like we were really excited about the 2022 group, and then we were really excited about the 2023 group and really excited. And then they've never quite hit the peak. Like, hey, Carl Brooks, what a rookie season. I bet he'll be even better in year 2. And it's like, actually, he was kind of the same or maybe even a tick worse. So I don't know what to make of all of that, but I do think 6 defensive tackles, like that's like, if you're going to pick a surprising thing today, think that would be kind of surprising, but I think that's what's going to happen.
It could. I was quoting Justice Mosqueda's roster tracker earlier, which is fun to look at.
This has just been Justice PR. We got to cut it out. We got to stop this.
Yeah, it is too much. It's a little too much justice. You're totally right. 10 out of 15 people kept Stackhouse. I actually was not one of them. I've been back and forth. I argued with Justice a week ago. I'm like, they're going to keep Stackhouse. And then he kind of talked me into, I think, a little bit more. And I just think is like the flashes are really impressive. And he's got the body type that you want. I think you like would love an extra guy like that on the roster. I didn't like the preseason tape quite as much. I think you get him back on the practice squad, but it's a really interesting discussion. And then, of course,
he was the UDFA. We have to remember that. Like those guys, the pre-draft priors mean a lot in all this. And I think, frankly, going back to our earlier discussion, I think there's a good chance the Packers liked Darian Kennard in the pre-draft. And that's one of the reasons why they made this move, because it's not like there's NFL tape of him. They just had to have gone, we liked that guy in the pre-draft. By the way, I went back and checked on the consensus board. He was 66th, Darian Kennard. On the consensus board, went 145th. But the perception of him in the media, at least, was that he was a top 100 type player. So the Packers might say, hey, look, this is a Brian Gutekunst special. Like he will bet on draft pedigree. It's a Howie Roseman special. And so I think that you're right about, hey, look, Nazir Stackhouse, the NFL did not love him. Every team had 7 chances at least to draft him, and no one did.
Yeah, and they didn't. And now you go out. If the Green Bay releases him, I don't think there's going to be huge appetite to be like, oh, we didn't want him in the draft, and then the team that did, spend some bonus money didn't even keep him on the 53, despite him kind of looking okay. Like, we're probably good. You can just probably get back to.
Would you say he looked better in practice than in preseason?
Yes. Very much so. And again, I don't know how many teams are going out, either A, trusting idiots like me that are tweeting out like Nazir Stackhouse looks good in camp, or B, even doing the homework in the first place to be like, oh, there's a lot of buzz about Nazir Stackhouse from some of the beat guys, whatever. And I'm sure they're more looking at the preseason tape. And again, I do think he looked better, but there'd be times too, like he would be in like 2 straight run stuffs, like right up front. And then like the very next play, he's like 5 yards off the ball, just getting like playing with poor pad level and just not maintaining.
That's why he's UDFA, right? If he were more consistent, he'd have been drafted.
Yeah. So I think that's, again, very interesting to see what happens there. And then the other one I just want to ask you about quick is corner. I think that's always, that's kind of been one of the other debated ones of, do they keep 5? Did they keep 6? And even if it is 5 or 6, which one of those kind of 4 guys that are in that conversation do they keep? It's also just remarkable, by the way, that Bo Melton is just seemingly a roster lock after switching positions from wide receiver to corner. Just unbelievable stuff. But who do you kind of see making it in the back of that corner room?
Did you stand up in your chair a little bit when you heard Brian Gutekunst say that when they first got him, they thought about converting him to corner? Like, that kind of blew my mind. They were like, yeah, when we brought him in, we thought, hey, if he doesn't stick a receiver, maybe we convert him to corner. He's got the corner movement skills. And if you look at like his profile, he's built really a lot like a corner. Like when you watch him move out there, he moves like a corner in a lot of ways. And so it's not really that surprising in some ways that he kind of just seamlessly transitioned. We forget sometimes these guys are the 1% of the 1% of top athletes in the world. And so they can just do this stuff. It's pretty crazy. My like very lukewarm take on this is I don't think the last corner on this team is currently on the roster. I just don't. I think there's 5 corners that they feel good about. Bo Melton is apparently one of them. And
who's your 5th?
What's the math here? So it's your 3 starters: Hobbs, Valentine, Nixon, Bo Melton. I guess that's only 4, right?
Yes.
So then, like, I think they have to have 5 on the roster. I don't know that there's a 5th corner that they feel good about. Kalen King, I think, had some nice plays against Seattle, but he's been inconsistent. I know people were kind of excited about Kamal Haddon, like some of the plays he made in the 4th quarter, but I thought in the first half he was pretty bad. So and was terrible against the Colts. So I don't know, man. Like I think it's a waiver wire something. It's maybe you maybe make a phone call to Stephon Gilmore or something like that. Although he seems like he's got to be back to the Vikings, right? Who's playing corner for the Vikings right now, Andy? Is it going to be you?
Yeah, it might be me at this point. It's not a great look.
Limber up,
by the
buddy.
way, when I retired from football in 6th grade, my last position was starting corner. I want to let everyone know that was the position I was playing when I decided to retire early. I decided to play Madden instead, and it ultimately ended up being a good decision for me. Yes, very much so. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what they do at corner. And that's kind of one of the interesting aspects of today as well, is not just what's happening in Green Bay, but what's obviously happening around the league. And Minnesota at corner is one of those interesting ones. And do they get Thielen? There's a lot of stuff going around the NFC North.
So we just launched this new show, the Squad Show, and we have former Packers OC Jeff Jagosinski on it.
I saw that.
And he is so fun to listen to. It was really fun to be in a little group chat with Brandon Snide and him and I during the game, because he's calling out stuff. And he'll just send like little, oh, it's a 3-man front with 4-man spacing, and that's it. Like he'll just like throw out these little nuggets that maybe you weren't paying that close attention to, but a coach with a coach's eye is seeing it. And he made a great point on our Squad Show, and that was, you're not just competing with the guys on the roster, you're competing with the 90 guys on every other team around the league, because the Packers could trade for a Darian Kinnard, or they'll pick up someone on cut day. And so that like sort of pinged in my brain when I was trying to put together my projections for the cornerback room. I was like, I don't think their 5th and or 6th corners are currently on this roster. I think they have to come from somewhere else. I know like Damari Mathis has been one that's been out there. The Broncos waived him yesterday. We'll see if the Packers put in a claim there. We'll probably find out about that pretty soon, right? And so that's kind of where I landed on corner, because I don't think they have the depth there right now.
Yeah, that's a really. I thought corner, maybe number 4 tight end, number 9 offensive line, or number 10 offensive lineman, and maybe 4 tight end. I think 3. Yeah. I have 3 at tight end. The bench conversation is interesting.
You have Fitzpatrick over Sims?
Yes. Yeah. 15 out of 15 of the people on Justice's projection had Fitzpatrick as the number 3 tight end, which is interesting. Only 7 had Sims making it as a 4th tight end.
I had Sims as the 3rd tight end, and changed it at the last minute. So, I don't feel strongly about it either way. I really don't. Like, I think that there's not a ton of difference there. I think that they could probably pick up a tight end off the street and make him work in this offense. I think part of it too is, if they're going to play more 12, don't they have to have someone that they think can play offense? Like that was where the Sims part of it to me was, if they want to live more in this heavy world, don't they need to have a tight end that they think can actually play, not just be a special teams player? And that's why Sims was sort of the tipper for me. But I would understand why they go in a different direction.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's one of the ones that are true, like going into today, are like a true interesting, like 50-50, like it could go either way. And I would not be surprised one way or the other. Just some updates really quick. Isaiah Nair released, Cornelius Johnson released. These are all reports, of course, not actually from the team. There was a couple others as well. James Esther, Tyler Cooper, in that initial group of releases. That
I'd like to see Cornelius Johnson back on the practice squad if they could do it.
Same. I also did a 16-man practice squad projection, plus international pathway player, because I'm a junkie, Peter, and I can't help myself. So I did have Cornelius Johnson on the practice squad as well. All right, Peter, before we get you out of here, any final thoughts, or obviously feel free to get your plugs in on the way out as well.
Well, I'm interested to see what happens at linebacker. Christian Welch was that sort of last guy. How many of those bodies are you going to keep if they keep 4 tight ends, which I've sort of come around on? Like, maybe they only keep 5 off-ball linebackers and it's 4 tight ends, or however they want to distribute it. Otherwise, we got the leap. Some really good content there lately. And then there's, this opportunity for the squad show. Let me plug that again. Wednesday night, we will be live at 7:15 Central Time, 7:15 Lambeau time. And we'll be after the game, after every week. That's my daughter. Everyone say hi to my daughter. And we'll be there after the game for an extra hour all season long. So that'll be a fun time. Locked On Sports Today is first 15 minutes of Sports Center. All the big stories of the day on Locked On Sports Today.
Love that. You guys are killing it over on Lockdown. I love the new idea with Jeff Jagodzinski on the live show. Definitely going to be checking that out a lot, and always appreciate you coming on. And of course, check him out over at The Leap as well. Jacob Westendorf in the chat says, I love when mom and dad come together to talk Packers. So happy that we could make you happy, Jacob Westendorf. That's what we're here for. Go follow him at Peter_Bukowski. Peter, we'll do this again soon, and enjoy your cutdown day, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
You bet. That is the one and only Peter Bukowski joining us on the fan guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Make sure to again follow him at Peter_Bukowski. This is the Pack a Day Radio Show. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to the Pack a Day Radio Show. A huge thank you to Peter Bukowski for joining us this past segment. Again, follow him over at Peter_Bukowski. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Nellis is coming up next from 9 to 11. Also, an important PSA for our listeners. The Pack a Day Radio Show is also a podcast. You can find us anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite pods. Catch the full episode, listen by individual hour, or jump straight to the highlights. Just open up your favorite podcast app, search Pack a Day Radio Show, hit the follow button so you get every minute of the show your way and on your time. Also, check out the Pack a Day podcast while you're out there as well. On YouTube, we had a couple comments coming in. The first one was from Doug, says, I haven't seen a Packer team punch anyone in the mouth with Matt LaFleur. Believe it when I see it. I think that's a little bit harsh, but I think they've been a little bit more physical, especially this past year. But I understand the sentiment overall. And then Cheddarhead says, Rasul Douglas is still out there. Cheddarhead, I'm afraid I have some bad news. Rasul Douglas did sign this morning with the Miami Dolphins, 1 year, $3 million to be their new corner. So Rasul Douglas is not still out there. He is a member of the Miami Dolphins. So he will not be a Green Bay Packer. And based on his tape, I cannot stress this enough, that is probably a very good thing for Green Bay Packers fans. He struggled mightily last year, looked about 5 steps slower than he was in Green Bay. It would have been to the point where if you had lost a couple corners and needed to get somebody as a break glass in case of emergency, sure, bring Sewell back and see if he can maybe, he's made one career reclamation in Green Bay before. Maybe he can do it again, but he did not look good at all in Buffalo a season ago. And there's a reason that it took until August 26th for anyone to sign him on a relatively cheap deal. Overall, I'm not super confident in that deal for Miami, but we'll see how he does. And I'm cheering for the guy. I really liked him a lot in Green Bay. I just know I went back and watched the tape and it was not super pretty this past season in Buffalo. Tommy, we got a leadoff show today, a big Brewers win. I love Murph, like just how he's going to tell like it is.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm just so ingrained and used to every coach and GM telling me like, yeah, it's just another game. Like, now we're on to the next one on the schedule. It's just one of, 162 or whatever. Like, I'm so used to, like, yesterday he was like, we really needed that win. Like, that was a really important win for us. It felt like he's like, I know it's a long season, but really felt like we had to have that one. Some of the stuff still catches me off guard. I was not expecting them to say that, especially with where they're at in the standings and how well they've been playing overall. I even was probably a little bit more like, yeah, guys, they're going to be fine. But per the manager, they needed that one last night and they got it.
It felt like it too, Andy, especially once they had made the score. It was 6-0 and then it went to 6-5, like just right on the, on a snap like that. I thought that they did need the win because they're, 3-6 in their last 9. Like 4-6 doesn't sound quite as bad in your last 10 as 3-6 in your last 9 sounds for some reason. And I also think that they just need to get some momentum and beat up on these bad teams along the way as well, too. Like there's no reason that the Brewers shouldn't be handling business against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And Andy, yesterday, Caleb Durbin hit his 4th home run of August. That ties him for 48th this month of all players in Major League Baseball, with 26 others, including Eugenio Suarez.
All right, there you go. Yeah, that deal, not doing that deal for Suarez, this turned out well. He has not been great. Seattle, right? I think he went to.
Yes.
He has not been great since going to Seattle. And Durbin's been really, really good. There's going to be some people who will immediately follow up of, hey, maybe you should have kept him in the lineup the other day when he's hitting all these home runs in August or whatever. But yeah,
one is against a position player, to be fair.
I totally agree. Totally agree. But overall, very happy. Here's what I want from the Brewers. I want to start seeing them get back in the habit of just winning series, not losing series. I'll put it that way. If it's a 4-game series, take 2 of 2. That's fine. If it's a 3-game series, take 2 of 3. I want to see them start getting in that habit once again of because once the playoffs start, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how many of them you lose. You have to win the series at the end of it. I just want to get them back in the habit of winning series. So if it's a 3-game, take 2 of 3, no more losing series. And I think if they can just do that the rest of the way, they'll be in a very good spot to win the Central, hopefully take the number 1 seed in the NL and not have to sort of fight and claw too hard at the end to try to get either of those things. And you certainly don't want the Cubs to get too close to. They're 5.5 right now, right, Tommy?
Agreed. Yes. Yes, they are.
5.5. All right, let's get to our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, The Fan.
All right, as I talked about at the onset, if you're expecting some big hot takes or, loud, we're going to break down the minutia of the Green Bay Packers every day. What I want to get to here, final, is there's going to be a lot of players released today. And I do want to say, by the way, like, it's a weird juxtaposition of we're all excited to see what this initial 53-man roster looks like. It's a weird aspect in the fact that it'll literally probably look different tomorrow, and it's going to look different all season long. Like, the initial 53 means almost nothing. And it's also of course, there's 1,000 people that are losing their NFL dreams today. And I don't want to take that lightly either. It's a really dark day in the NFL when it comes to that stuff. And it's really difficult for a lot of these people who have worked their entire lives for this. But it's a weird thing too, where we're very excited to see what this initial Packers roster is going to look like. So just want to acknowledge both of those things. But as some of those people do unfortunately lose their 50 or their 53 dreams today, there's still a lot of practice squad opportunities. There's a lot of these guys that I do really hope that Green Bay can get back on the practice squad. If a Corey Ballantyne or whatever these corners that don't make it, Micah Robinson, Corey Ballantyne, Kalen King, Kamal Haddon, whichever 2 or 3 of those guys do not get actually on the active roster, would love to see all of them back on the practice squad. Omar Brown, the safety, assuming he's good to go, would love to see him back on the practice squad. Jamin Johnson, the undrafted rookie linebacker, as well as Nasir Stackhouse, the undrafted rookie at defensive tackle. If they don't make the team, really want to see them back. Tommy's guy, Julian Hicks, if he doesn't make the 53, would love to see him back, as well as Cornelius Johnson and Isaiah Nair, wide receivers on this team that I think have some high-end upside. Ben Sims, if he doesn't make it. Deslin Alexander, the defensive end. There were a lot of people that I think were fringe 53 players that if they don't end up making the 53, then you play the waiting game tomorrow and really hope that these guys do not get claimed by any other team and that they're willing to come back to Green Bay on a practice squad deal, because there is a lot of talent there that you already have ingrained in the system, not only on offense and defense, but on Rich Bisaccia's special teams as well, and that you're going to need those call-ups through the course of the season. There are going to be a ton of injuries. There are going to be a lot of people who, get hurt either for a short period of time or an extended period of time, and you're going to need all the depth that you can get. So as we're keeping an eye on cutdowns today, that 16-man plus one person international pathway program player tomorrow to create a 17-man practice squad is going to be not equally important, but it's going to be important as they really build out the depth of this roster as well. So keep an eye on those players over the course of the next 24 hours or so. Tommy, that is all I have for today. Anything else on your end before we get out of here?
Everyone just pour one out for Julian Hicks, because that was the last you saw him in a Packer uniform. He's going to get picked up. I'm telling you, Andy, he's going to get picked up.
Tommy, we have a friendly, I'll take an energy drink. You get a coffee of your choice wager. Julian Hicks will be back on the Packers practice squad.
Okay. All right.
That is my bold prediction to end the day here, and a perfect way to end the day. Thank you to you, my friend. Always appreciate all the work that you do here for us on the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. Stay tuned for that Mason Crosby show with Tommy. He's not going anywhere. He'll be right back here for the next couple hours, as well as Sparky today. Pack-A-Day Podcast 365, wherever you get your favorite podcast. So make sure to check that out. Back tomorrow with Ryan Horvat, breaking down everything that happened during cutdowns today. This has been the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. Enjoy your Tuesday, and of course, go Pack Go.